Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I am going to be telling you whether you should read the Shatter Me series. The Shatter Me series is about a teenage girl called Juliet who's held captive. She's locked in a cell by the re-establishment, which is a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world. But Juliet is no ordinary teenager because one touch from her can kill. The re-establishment therefore wants to use her as a weapon, but Juliet has other plans. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovered the strength to fight back and to find a future with the one person she thought she'd lost forever. So the Shatter Me series is dystopian, young adult, and also a romance. So Google says the recommended age to read this series is 12+, and I would agree with the rating. So I'm going to talk you through the reading order. There is in total 6 books, 3 or technically 5 novellas. It is quite a complicated series and I definitely would recommend noting this down if you plan on reading it because there's a lot to remember. By the way, you can read the series without any of the novellas, they're not necessary. First book you start off with the Shatter Me. The first novella after Shatter Me is called Destroy Me. Now this is part of a book called Unite Me, which is why I say it's technically 5 because there's 2 books in one, but technically this is one book, if you know what I mean. And then after that you leave this book, so you're halfway through this, you move on to Unravel Me, which is the second actual book in the series. Then you get this book back and you read Fracture Me, which is the second half. These novellas are good for seeing other point of views from other characters, because in the main series 90% of the time, I might be wrong because I did read it a long time ago, but most of it is about the main character. But sometimes it's nice to like get more into other characters' heads and see what's going on. So then after that we have the last book in the first trilogy, which is why I say it is quite confusing because there's 2 trilogies in the whole series. First 3 books, Shatter Me, Unravel Me, Ignite Me, make up a trilogy. Then the next 3 books make up the second trilogy, but you basically just read them all together. And straight after Ignite Me you move on to another full book, so you don't read a novella in between them, which is called Restore Me. So this is the first book in the second trilogy. Straight after Restore Me you move on to the next book, which has 2 other novellas in this, and you read Shadow Me, so you only read half of this. Then you read the next book in the trilogy, which is Defy Me. Then you go back to Find Me and you read Reveal Me, which is the second half of this novella. The last book in the whole series is called Imagine Me, and then after that you have another novella at the end which is called Believe Me, which is basically just like a big epilogue. Now originally I give it 5 stars and 10 out of 10, but upon reflection and after reading like more books, I did give it a 8 out of 10 and 4 stars out of 5 stars. Obviously individually the books might be more or less depending on what book it is, but as a whole series is about 4 stars in my opinion. Most people kind of want to know how much smut is in the book. There's a reason why it's only a 12+. It is a young adult, so there's not going to be anything graphic in there. There are references, but they are minor and small. Now the romance tropes, obviously because this is a romance book, even though I'd say the romance is only a subplot, there is enemies to lovers, a love triangle, but it's a very quick love triangle. It's not like a love triangle that lasts all 6 books, it's just a love triangle that will last for a couple of the books. Because personally I'm not a massive fan of love triangles, and if someone told me oh it's love triangles, that would put me off. But don't worry, it isn't like she can't choose between 2 of them. It's pretty straightforward. It only lasts a couple books. I was trying to find more tropes because there's definitely a lot more tropes that I can't find by researching. This isn't really a trope, but I would basically say like soulmates. The main character and her love interest are just soulmates in every single way. The trigger warnings, there is quite a lot of trigger warnings, but they are all kind of minor references, not too graphic, too detailed. There is reference of domestic abuse. Then we got suicidal thoughts. Mainly that's only book 1, and there is death, as you're going to get with any dystopian book series. Same with gun violence and just violence in general. There's also torture, but it's not graphic, and confinement. There's not really much that's triggering in this book other than obviously a few references that aren't that detailed or graphic. I'm going to give you some advice to those who would like to read this series. So I would say be patient. Don't think you know everything when you've only read a book or 2. Because see, I made this mistake. I read the first 2 books and I was very passionate about a certain character. I'm sure if you've seen this recommended on TikTok, you know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to spoil it just in case you really want to go in blind. I said a lot and I was like, oh, I hate this character, and I was very vocal about it, and then after I read the next couple books everything kind of clicked into place and I was like, oh. So I definitely think don't embarrass yourself, because I saw someone on Reddit, they were on the second book and they were like proper ranting about it. A thing that this character does makes 10 times more sense once you find out the reasoning behind it. So I think it's very important to just keep an open mind and be like, okay, what has just happened? But things should piece together and make more sense later on when you finish the rest of the series, if you obviously choose to. People normally read this series thinking it's a romance book. It isn't. Romance is only a subplot. The main plot is dystopian, so if you like anything like The Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, it's definitely for you. But if you don't like that type of thing, don't go in thinking it's just going to be like a little cute enemies to lovers romance book, because that's not what it's about. When you read the first book, you're probably going to be a bit disappointed with it. It's always going to be the way when it comes to big series, because it literally is just about world building and getting to know the characters, getting to know the world, getting to know what's going on. But other than that, it is kind of boring. It is a little bit anticlimactic. You just kind of got to be patient. And my advice is, if you read the first trilogy, so Shatter Me, Unravel Me and Ignite Me, and you really don't like it, I would recommend not to continue, because it's probably not for you. However, in my personal opinion, the second trilogy was a lot better than the first trilogy, so take that as you will. Now I'm going to talk you through all of the things that I liked. It did have really short chapters for the most part, which personally for me just helps me read really quickly. Same with the fact that the writing is very easy to read. It's not long, complicated sentences. Now for some people will say this is written badly. Sometimes you don't want to read a really long, detailed book. I would also say that this is good for people who are just getting into reading or are younger, because the writing isn't too hard to read. I read this all in one day because the chapters are short, it's easy to read, it's quite big writing, so it's just super simple. I also like that it has a fast-paced, mysterious plot. Mysterious, I don't know, I don't think that's really the right word. Because of the short chapters, because it was easy to read, it just felt super fast-paced, and it didn't feel, I never got slumped whilst reading it, which I really like. Obviously the first book is a different story because that is world building. I read the whole series in like a month or something. It did not take me long at all. I personally find that when I read long series or series in general, I get way more attached to the characters than I would in a standalone. That's why you see loads of people having massive attachments to the series, because you just have longer to spend with them, so it isn't just one of those books that you read and forget about. I also really like the romance. Who she ends up with and how they end up together is just so perfect. Like I said, if you read the first book and you're like, why is everyone loving this person? Just continue to read, because things make sense, and just everything in their past and everything that happens is just so perfect, and their romance is so perfect, and words can't describe how perfect the romance is. It's incredible. But I do like that it doesn't take up the whole plot, and there's other stuff going on as well. Now the reason why it's not 5 stars anymore is because the plot isn't too memorable. The reason why, when you see people talking about the Shatter Me series a lot, you'll mainly see the romance or one character in particular. If you ask me to tell you about the romance, or if you ask me to tell you about the plot, I'll be able to tell you a lot more about the romance. I do really like dystopian books, and romance isn't essential for me in books, but without the good romance, the book wouldn't be as good as it is. I have read better. We've got the big 3 in the trilogy, the original dystopian book. Well, they're not the original ones, but I call them the original ones. I've grown up reading them, so they're my originals. Obviously The Hunger Games, Divergent, The Maze Runner, definitely wouldn't say they're as good as that, especially The Hunger Games. Nothing can touch The Hunger Games. Don't even tell me, because nothing can. It's a little bit overhyped in my opinion. I would say that I think because of all of the love for the romance, people hype it up a lot because the romance is so good, but it is a little bit overhyped. But I still 100% think it's worth you reading it, and I would really recommend it. The ending was a bit anticlimactic. There needed to be more. It didn't feel like the end. It felt like there was still a ... Like, so anyway, that is all of my points. I'd 100% recommend it. I really did like the series. I'll definitely let me know in the comments if you are gonna read it, if you plan on reading it, if you are currently reading it, and tell me what book you're on, or tell me if you have read it and who your favorite character is. Now, if you'd like to see me do a spoiler unpacking of the Shatter Me series and telling you all of my opinions about all of the plot twists and everything that happens in the book series, then definitely let me know and I will 100% make that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next week for another video. Bye!